first of all, thank you for writing the book and for reading the audio because it made a huge difference to get to listen. It was like spoken word, Matthew. It was such a joy. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. I've had a few people go, because my favorite read of the book was when I read it aloud. My most enjoyable of the content was like reading it aloud. Going, oh man, this is funny and able, and I anticipated where the voices and characters were, and I did that whole read in like 8 hours. So
Wow.
it's a 6.5 hour recorded. What's the final edit? But the whole thing took 8 hours because I kind of knew the stories. But I've had people go, oh, when I read the book, I was listening to you, but I was in my voice, in their own voice in their head. And then when I heard the book, it was like a different book because it was your voice telling
Yep.
it.
100%. It was an experience. It turned it into, and at the end when you like green light, like I just get that voice in my head now. So
Good.
well, let's hop in here. So the name of the show is Why Not Now? And the first question out of the gate is, can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now? And we dissect that day, that minute, that hour, or that season, and really kind of understand, look under the hood of how you went from idea to action.
Yeah. Oh, you've read the book. There's many of those why not now moments that I either embrace the doing of something or the undoing.
Or the unbranding.
Of unbranding, undoing of something. Let me think of one. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's the present day ones with when COVID came 7 months ago. Wait a minute, is this real? What's going on? Go get mom, get her out of the retirement community right now, bring her home. We have the means to stock our pantry right now, lock the gate. We're staying in, taking it seriously. That was a why not now moment that I'm so far happy with. But what would be a fun one to go into? Let me go to one that we can unpack quite a bit, and that would be 1991, I believe. I'm at college at University of Texas at Austin. It's the end of my sophomore year. I have had nothing but plans to pursue law and go to law school at this time in my life since I was 12. But now, getting towards the end of my sophomore year, where now credits start to count, you better be specific with where your credits are going, or you're going to waste them. You know what I mean? I am not sleeping well with the idea of going to law school. I remember the idea. It was like waking me up at night. The idea of going, wait a minute, you're going to graduate here, you're going to go to school for a few more years, then you're going to get out, you're going to try and find a job, intern. You're really not going to be practicing anything experientially till you're in your 30s. And I was like, do I really want to spend all of my 20s getting educated to learn something and not actually testing it out? And I didn't. So I had been writing a bunch of short stories, some of which are somewhat included in the book. And I shared them with a friend of mine who was a friend from high school who was at NYU Film School. And he was like, these are really good. They're worth sharing. And then he also said, you know what, you ought to think about getting in front of the camera. You got good character, you're a good looking guy, da 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 da. And I kind of scoffed that off as being too much of an avant-garde idea. But the idea of the storytelling, maybe I could pull that off. Maybe I could try that. Maybe I would have the courage to do that. Maybe my dad might approve when I called and told him that's what I wanted to do. So I decided I want to go to film school. Well, me wanting to go to film school and my dad and my parents approving that were two different things. But I was pretty secure in the idea. A book found me, The Greatest Salesman in the World. Mm-hmm. That was a very seminal moment because we get given books. Teachers tell us you have to read a book, but this book found me. I'm not even a big reader.
You were like on the couch or something and you saw it.
I'm on the couch. I'm not, for whatever reason, I'm not interested in sports. I'm not interested in there's a stack of Playboys, a stack of Sports Illustrateds, stack of, I had 3 hours left to study for my exam. And I had never in my life, if I have 5 more minutes to study for something, I will use that 5 minutes. I never have said, you got this. So this particular day, I said, I got it. Don't study anymore. Sports. I'll watch any sports and get into it. My team was actually playing. For whatever reason, I was not interested. Stack of magazines. Sports Illustrated, Playboys. Nope, not interested. 7 deep in that stack of magazines, there's this white covered paperback with the red, beautiful red cursive title on it that said The Greatest Salesman in the World. And I remember as I read that saying to myself, who is that? I picked it up. I started to read it. I get into this story. About an hour, 2 hours later, I get to the first scroll. And I've now been introduced to the story and introduced to this book that tells me you're the greatest salesman in the world. Whoever's reading the book is. And you will read this book. It has 10 scrolls. You will read the first scroll 3 times a day for 30 days before you move on to the second scroll, and so on and so on. So it's a 10-month read. And I'm like, this book has found me. No one's told me you got to read it. No one said this is for you. So at this time where I'm thinking, I don't want to go to law school, I got a final exam here in a minute at the end of my sophomore year. If I'm going to make a change, I better make it now because all my credits have to count. I want to go to film school, but boy, do I have the courage to really just, tell my dad, mom and dad, I want to do that and mean it. And boom, this book finds me. I get to that scroll. I've got this thing. I'm like, oh, I have a personal secret now. I have an adventure I'm about to go on for 10 months. I can't wait to see what's on the next page of this book. And I read the first scroll. Oh, form good habits and become their slave. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember going, well, one of your habits is you're kind of fibbing to yourself right now. You're not being, it's not a good habit to be fibbing to yourself about saying, yeah, I'll go to law school because, hey, that's what I was always going to do. I'm not going to take a chance. Well, that's not a good habit. And I remember making that association right there in the room. And as I made that association, I said, I'm going to go to film school and I'm calling my dad tonight. And I looked up and it was like 15 minutes before my final exam. And I grabbed my stuff, woke up my buddy whose book this is. I said, hey, can I borrow this book? He wakes up and he goes, no, you can have it. My dad gave it to me. He said to give it to somebody who needs it. Took the book, ran off to class, ripped through my psychology exam, didn't care what grade I made because I was moving on, right? I had a new path. And I called my dad that night at 7:30. I picked out a particular time. I remember telling myself 7:30, he'll be home from work, he'll have had dinner, he'll be having a beer with mom on the couch, he'll be in a good mood, he'll be more open to this new idea, I hope. And I called him, say, Pop. He said, what you got, little buddy? And I said, been doing a lot of thinking, and I don't want to go to law school anymore. I want to go to film school. He paused. And then I heard this, well, you sure that's what you want to do? I said, yes, sir. Then he paused. And then he gave me 3 of the greatest words that any father could ever give their child who's heading off on a new adventure. He said, well, don't half-ass it.
That was one of my favorite parts. Yeah.
Oh,
Green light right there.
That was a green light because in the way he said it, he goes, well, don't half-ass it. It had a little bit of grit in it. It had like a kick in the backside. It had a, well, you better, it was more than his approval.
Yeah.
It was more than privilege. It was freedom. It was responsibility. It was accountability. And he heard, and I've since broke that moment down into a deeper understanding what I believe about parenting and almost society in general. He heard in my voice, the way I said, Dad, I've been thinking about it. I don't want to go to law school anymore. I want to go to film school. He heard in my voice, I wasn't really asking his permission. He heard in my voice that I wasn't there to go, well, I don't know, maybe. And then he goes, is that what you want to do? I said, yes, sir. I didn't pause. I said, yes, sir. He heard that conviction in me. And I think in that moment, that's where, as parents do, they go from, yes,
you got
my boy, you're making your own way. You stepped out of everything you've expected to do, that I ever expected you to do, that your family expected you to do, that the world expected you to do. And you've been off on your own at school, thinking on your own, and you've come up with a plan. And it's your plan, not mine, unexpected. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you will need in the world to make it, to succeed, to navigate. And I think all parents like that to a certain extent. And even society, we're raised in a certain structure. And if you stay within that structure, which most of us do for most things in our life, that's fine. That's very good. The structure's there for a reason.
Mhm.
But if you break out of it and you really mean it, and you're gonna be a trailblazer for your own path, usually society, the first thing they do, if you don't mean it, you can't be bluffing when you want to do that, because society and our parents will move you right back. If you come out of if you want to do that and you're kind of asking permission, the world will push you right back in your structure because you flinched, because you were kind of going, well, I was just going to try it. No, there ain't no trying it. If you're going to do it, you come out the world, and I think our parents, all of a sudden, when they see you mean it, you start to do it, the world starts to go.
Yes, that energy. You went from idea to action. I mean, this had been boiling, and you were writing those short stories, and creative spirit was surfacing clearly, but that was a pretty quick decision, right? And I think about one theme in your book, Matthew, where it just rings in my head now. You talk about this kind of theme of grounding yourself on a fairly regular basis, where you talk about being less impressed and more involved. And it just resonated so much. It's like, do you want to do the important work, or do you want to be the important person? Which is something Ryan Holiday always talks about. If ego can be the enemy. But can you talk about being less impressed and more involved, and how you turn that corner and reframe and how you catch yourself? Like,
Well,
when's the
and I
last
still
time?
have to, and it's continual maintenance. It wasn't a light that went off that I'm like, oh, got that. I thought I did, but I've had to remind myself and have to work on that. What am I impressed with in my life? What do I revere? So that was something that came to me after my father's passing, and I think it was born of the fact that it was obvious physically I didn't have the one thing I could rely on. My father, above government, above law, hell, in some ways, above religion. I mean, it's like that if I really got in a pickle, I trusted my dad could break down any barrier to say, I got you. I got you. No matter where I was in the globe or in the universe. Well, that was gone. So all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, okay. So all those things that he's been teaching me that I haven't really been following through on, because, hey, he still got my back. Well, now I better integrate those, activate those. And I remember this feeling of going, well, there were certain things that I revered in life. I don't know, fame, money, certain people. Oh, but they were mortal things. And I remember going, wow, if you're having a reverence for those things, and you're kind of, your mouth's agape. Wow. Well, if you're faced with those things, your mouth's agape, they're going to pass you by because you're so impressed with them. If that's what you want. If I'm so impressed with you right now in this conversation, and I'm like, I can't believe you and I are talking. I will not be involved in this. I cannot. It's not the best thing for you or me.
Yeah.
But I won't be involved in this conversation because I'll be too impressed. Or
I'm telling myself that right now. Yes, absolutely.
But I'll be holding so much reverence that you and I could not have a great conversation.
Right.
And it happens in relationships as well. If we hold our mate to such reverence, it's not fair to them or us, because they can't live up to it or we can't live up to it. So I remember that time going, oh, all these things that I may be revering in my life, possible things in my future. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know about that. Wow, that's incredible. Not me. All those things lowered down to eye level. Well, at the same time, inversely, I noticed that there were things in my life, and this was not an intellectual experience. It happened. It just happened. I'm now intellectualizing to explain it. It just happened. And all the things that I was looking down upon, people I was condescending, circumstances I was patronizing. Oh, that's beneath me. Oh, that's not worthy. But those things rose up to eye level. And so all of a sudden, I remember going, the world is flat. I see further. I see wider. I see more clearly. My peripheral vision's better. I was a quarter of an inch taller. I was standing up straight. My shoulders went back. My heart got higher. My chin got up. And I said, yes, courage. You go forward with great respect. for the things you look down on, and with great respect for the things you revered, but not reverence and not condescension or whatever it is. I just say what water does when it evaporates. Anyway, without condescending
Yeah.
or without revering mortal things. And part of that also has continued through my life, and other theories that I have that are somewhat based on my spirituality. Because notice I say mortal things. Mortal things. We have to watch revering these mortal things because they're mortal. That's what they are. That's what they are. It goes along. The later concept came from this, is one that's in the book. A roof is a man-made thing.
I was just thinking of that, and it's like an upper limit problem, right?
It's a ceiling. Oh, well, that's as good as I could, and I like to say this most of the times, and this is an inverse take on what Ryan talks about the ego of the enemy. Most of the times I find that when we're, think we're Icarus flying too close to the sun and that the sun's going to melt the wax on our wings, it ain't even 70 degrees outside yet. It's not even close to melting. You can go a lot further. And we're being quite arrogant to think, oh my gosh, I'm so close to the sun. It's almost arrogant to go, no, you're not. You can keep flying for forever. You ain't gonna go. There's a much greater heights you can go. Don't start getting scared of heights now.
Yes. Yes. So, okay. So let's talk about why not now moments. I mean, you talk about being made for moments in the book, and you talk about what if, and clearly there's a season of expansion that's happening right now with you. You've got this book, you're being asked left and right about your plans and political rumors and all that jazz. But I've heard you say, you're interested in a leadership role where you're most useful. Okay. So beautiful. Was there a why not now moment recently where you realized that's what you wanted?
I'm saying I'm having it. I'm having a why not now moment. I'm in it right now. And I'm trying to, now seems clear. What the why not is what I'm
I want it. That's a great point. That's most people's challenge, right? Is like, I'm ready. I just don't know what. But it will, if you continue to share with the world, it's like manifest action.
Yes. And I am crystallizing some ideas. I'm making social contracts with myself by sharing them with you and other people. I'm learning about myself by way I'm answering questions, by way my answers are evolving of the same question differently than they were 6 months ago. All kinds of things like that. And I'm having to, I'm measuring these things along the way, and I'm crystallizing some definition of what I believe my future is going to be. And I think what you said is correct. Now we usually know what we need to do. Knowing when to do it can be the real challenge. You know what I mean? Because timing can be, and it's worth considering. It's you can't overconsider. It's the objective awareness from the subjective need. To hop out and go, okay, well, what's the best time? Well, that's the hopping out and being aware. Well, let me look down from the third eye. Let me look down from the objective we and go, in context of where you are and what you have going, is this the right time? Worth considering, but we have to watch that. It's a balance, because some of us, we can sit there and try to work out the timing and look at it, and it's 30 years later, and we're like, we never did it because we kept trying to consider, and it goes back to earlier, when don't ask permission, just go do it. For me, I've been told it's a meta experiment that I'm going through, which I'm saying, yeah, I love acting, and yes, I want to act again. And yes, I plan on acting again. It's going to take a plum roll to get me from playing the character that I'm playing right now, though. And so I'm challenging myself, going, well, look here, and this is what my friend said, why it's meta. I said, look, why would I want to go do someone else's script, directed by someone else, lensed in a camera by someone else, edited by someone else, before it's put in a package and given to you in a screen that you have to go to a destination to see, or in your living room? What about the big show that I'm living right now, that I'm in? that their action was called one time for me, November the 4th, 1969, and will be called one time, and that'll be the day that I say goodbye to this life. Well, this is the one take. This is the one where there's no audition. It's live. We're in it right now. We're being recorded. We're in the big show right now. The hands of time are recording it. You don't have to go to the theater to check it out. Maybe nobody's watching, but maybe everyone's watching. You know what I mean?
Goosebumps. Total goosebumps here.
So that's what I'm trying to consider is going, don't go play a part. Be yourself. Maybe that's the simplest way to put it.
Well, I really appreciate how this curiosity and maybe the details may be unknown, but you've clearly got a vision and a direction, and you're living that out loud too. So it's pretty inspiring and motivating for people to see this process. It is a script that's unveiling itself. It just happens to be in the real world versus maybe Hollywood. And so Matthew, this last weekend, I lost a mentor. He was a dear friend. He was also an investor in my first company. His name's Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos. And I think about time a lot, and I think about my mentors, most of which have been men, just the industries I've worked in, sports, entertainment, and tech. And it was just a ratio thing. It wasn't like I have one female mentor, but it was just a matter of numbers. And I think about you and your influence and the power that you do have in the platform, and how you're flirting with and you're turning this corner in some way of the season of expansion. You have a daughter. What do you think is the role that men like yourself will play in accelerating this race toward gender equality?
Mm-hmm. Well, good question, and a big question. So I want to go back to equal opportunity. Look, we understand that if we're going to say, hey, we're fighting now for gender equality, for more females to have more access to roles, we're going to go to race equality, okay? Those are certain flags to fly. On the way, I think we all can agree that we're talking about where we want to get to. The best end of that is when we get to a day where someone goes, because I'm black or because I'm a woman, and the world says, we didn't care. And
it's not necessary to even state it.
What? So that's the place you get to. So then that the most competent gets the job. That's just it. It's the most competent. But to unpack that's all well and good, Matthew. Yes, we agree that's where we want to get. But to get there, I am learning and understanding that what I can do and what other men can do that may be, and anyone in positions of power and influence, which we would say, I think it's fair to say, would mostly be white men.
Mm-hmm.
Open up avenues for more opportunity to either get the education, to get the access, to get in the room, to have the ability to be in those roles. But the opportunity, now if the opportunity equalizes, and that's why I like to unpack, and I'm for equal opportunity. We unpack the unequal opportunity, then we get rid of affirmative actions and things where we go, well, because these are kind of band-aids. They don't fix the problem. So they can help, but it's opening up and getting equal opportunity for everyone. And then you just say, then it becomes like sports. Well, the best person wins. But that's it. And then you look down and go, oh, was it a female? I didn't know. Oh, was he a black? Oh, I didn't know. Oh, were they Asian? I had no idea. Oh, were they a white man? I didn't know. Because the numbers speak. Whatever it is, if it's in business sense, it would be like the numbers speak. It's measurable. That's what's great about sports that's different than art, though, and different than life. Not everything's so cleanly measurable, And if we can get it to a place where it's like the most competent wins.
Yeah.
So everyone have the opportunity to become as competent as they personally can, no matter their sex or race. That's it.
That's what we need to reverse engineer. And, as you influence the influencers and you have this platform, the more you continue to share these thoughts, the better, because it is extremely powerful and persuasive. And
Well, let me ask you this, because so many of us, we see these decisions as contradictions. Let me speak like hypothetically. So, and I paraphrase that because what I'm about to say, if it was put on a single quote on its own, could be like, what are you saying? But what I'm saying, if I am a white man in power, and I want to protect that. People don't do anything unless it's personal. We intellectualize the selfless acts out there, but we really don't take action until we go, oh, it's personal. Now, I could say, oh, well, to protect my position is a selfish act. Okay. But there is so the contradiction of that, usually people think, so to open opportunity for someone else that's other than me would be not selfish and not good to protect me, right? I don't think the two are contradictions, what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that there's a place where what's good for me is the best for we. There's a place where the best decision for you is the best decision for the most amount of people. And when we start to see, if we understand delayed gratification a little bit, like you brought up my daughter right there. If I can help if I can have some influence in creating a world where she has more opportunity to do whatever it is she has the innate ability and dreams and wants to work to do. Well, if that means me going without something or sacrificing something now for the delayed gratification of her having that opportunity, which decision's really more selfish? Well, me as a father to my daughter, I would say the one creating the more opportunity for her is the more selfish act by me. So I think we have to get off of this contradiction and find the paradox and understand the long view with our decisions. Because yes, we do want to protect ourselves. People don't act unless it's personal. So yes, it's personal. Yes, have your ego. Damn right, have your ego. But it doesn't. But it dances with also what's best, the most utilitarian choice. What's right for someone else, more people down the line. Make an investment. And there's a place where we can make an investment in our future that's also the best investment for everyone else's future, and vice versa. So the most selfless act, I believe, is the most selfish act. The most selfish act is actually the most selfless act. Mm-hmm. When we start to understand those two as paradox and non-contradiction, I think that's when we're going, now I'm tapping in.
That's meta. Yes. So I have a few rapid fire questions for you. We'll just do it quick, hot potato, if you're down with that.
Yeah.
All right. Pirates or ninjas? Who's tougher and why?
Pirates or ninjas? I'm gonna go with ninjas because my son loves the ninjas, and he would say they're quicker and tougher, and that the pirates are probably just making all the noise because they're not as tough.
All right. Your top time management or productivity tip?
Make a list.
Make a list. Got it. Love it. So your voice in the audiobook, which you read the book, everybody has to listen to this. It's edutainment, education, entertainment in one. You have a cadence, you have a persuasion and influence about the way you speak. Give us a voice lesson real quick. What's one tip? How could we do this?
Well, one tip is, don't tell your story like you're performing it for others. Tell it like you're telling it to yourself. My voice said every story has a different music. Mm-hmm. So one is whatever you're telling us. Let's go back. Is what's the story? Even if you're making a pitch, even an accountant making a pitch, you can turn your data into a story of a presentation. So when you can, try to turn data into a story. This leads to this, and that neck bone's connected to the collarbone. Just make and give it a story. When you hear when you make the story, when data becomes the story, then you can find music in the story where it's connected. And then finally, don't be afraid of the AKA pregnant pause before the punchline. Let it sit. Trust it.
You're so good at that too. I had to listen at speed like 1.2 because I learned I was interviewing you not too long ago and I wanted to make sure I got through it. And so I heard you at a quicker clip, but the pauses were still there, and it was just a fascinating listen. And okay, so what's one lesson you find yourself learning over and over?
Lesson I keep learning over and over. Obviously, having not learned it. Well, that's another thing we talk about in the book. We learn lessons. We know they're right. We know they're true. Activating them and have them instinctually become a habit is a different thing. Vida, what's the one lesson that I keep having to learn over and over? Come here. Come say hi. We were just talking about, this is my daughter.
Talking about you. Hey,
We
are
were
you
just talking
10?
about,
10 years old?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What's one lesson your dad keeps learning over and over?
What did I keep repeatedly having? I gotta learn that one again.
Trusting, I guess, when you like correct us, because a lot of times you correct us and then you come back and you're like, you explain why you corrected us, but usually we're just like,
We got it the first time. Trusting that they got it the first time. And I get
101, right?
Okay, 2 final questions, Matthew. This is such a joy, like a career highlight here. In the book, you mentioned you're off full timer on the road, which I grew up in a single wide trailer park in Wyoming, and you said there are trailer parks are full of renegades. My first book was titled "Renegades Write the Rules," and I had to stop, pause, and text my parents. I was like, "Listen to what he just said." Do you consider yourself a renegade?
Yes.
And what does a renegade mean? Just a couple words.
Don't ask permission. Stay in the slipstream. I've always said this: the outlaw's not really on the outskirts, on the extreme. The outlaw's right down the middle. Right down the middle, right in front of, right there in front of us.
So as like a professional why notter, when you think about other people in your life, who else comes to mind that's just that renegade mentality?
Yes. Well, my good friend Woody Harrelson is definitely a renegade. Sometimes he goes on the extremes to the outskirts. A friend of mine, Mark Benioff, Salesforce. That's a renegade.
Nice acquisition yesterday, by the way.
Yes, right. I mean, that's a real renegade. Dan Buettner with Blue Zones.
Oh,
He's a renegade. Yeah. A guy. Snoop Dogg is a renegade. Snoop's like, he said something to me. He's like, we worked together on Beach Bum, and he's got his thing, how the people perceive him, and it's got a successful amount of demand, and he's like, tell me, he goes, McConaughey, he goes, I know my zone, I know what I got, and he goes, and I'm just sticking to it, and he knows exactly what it is, and goes, boom, I'm comfortable right here, I will ride this all the way.
Oh my God.
So there's a renegade in that, renegades don't mean you have to, change all the time. As that old Earl Jam song, sometimes you change by staying the same, and let time change, and you're a straight line. Some of my great characters in films are the ones that remain the same, although the world changes and there's conflict in what hits them, but to remain the same through that can be quite dynamic.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. So the Broncos are headed to play the Chiefs this weekend. They don't have a quarterback. You're in the locker room. What are you going to say to him? What's the pep talk, Matthew? What do you got?
I think we better I think we better recall the wishbone again. Start studying the Navy midshipmen who pass like 3 times a game. The college team, I think it's Navy. They never pass. I think it's study them and start doing a lot of wildcat. We're gonna have a lot of H-backs taking snaps. We're gonna have reverses. We're gonna have tailbacks taking snaps. We're gonna have so much personnel coming in that defense is the only thing they're gonna know is that we ain't got a quarterback, but they ain't gonna know what the hell else is going on.
Great strategy. Oh, wow. And final question. So you talk in the book about, that moment where you're on set, you're in the car, dazed and confused. First, you're rookie. If you were to go back to yourself in that car and give yourself a little advice of what's going to come and a little advice in your back pocket for the road ahead before, all right, what would you say to yourself?
Well, obviously, I wouldn't if I really could. I mean, I can give you a hypothetical answer, but if I really could, I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't want to mess with. Because it all makes sense from this moment back. All of our lives are a science. We can connect the dots and go, oh, that thing that I thought was true. Oh, it made sense now. But I would say a lesson that would have been easier to have known earlier is the lesson I learned in Hollywood after about 7 years of being out there is that it's not personal. It's business. Don't say it's not personal. It's just business.
That's so good. So good. Thank you so much for your time.
This was quite fun. Thank you.